Every restoration reduced families to tears. But Suzie and Steve Fletcher, the adored repair shop siblings, had a decades-long secret. Few imagined the silent conflicts they fought outside the barn doors while audiences admired their prowess. However, the repair shop's Suzie and Steve Fletcher finally open, shocking admirers. Their buried childhood anguish narrative is going to be told. Lifelong silence and a final decision to break it open. The pause before the reveal. Millions of viewers worldwide took comfort in the repair shop's calm cadence for almost a decade. The delicate scrape of sandpaper on weathered wood, the reassuring tick of a freshly serviced clock, and the bittersweet cries of families reunited with lost artifacts created a warm and traditional refuge. The Fletcher siblings, Suzie and Steve, seemed to have magic in their hands. Suzie's gentle touch and calm manner exemplified patience and caring. Steve, precise and quiet, kept her enthusiasm in check. They were the workshop's heart, anchors in nostalgia and restoration. They were more than talented craftspeople to the public. They represented family, strength, and loyalty, and rich heritage roots. Their laughing, subtle glances and matching strengths were a dance of kinship almost perfect in harmony. A narrative was hidden beneath those warm smiles and kind hands, a tale of pain, endurance, and hidden truths, a truth not framed by the workshop's old walls or illuminated by shiny silver. Fans sensed something deeper, a flash of melancholy in Suzie's eyes when a piece brought back memories. Steve hesitated when the talk got too personal. These nuances hinted at a secret chapter. Nobody could have predicted the shadow's depth. Shadows under the workshop. Suzie Fletcher's life went beyond her beautiful movie persona. Behind her composed grin was a silent past perseverance. Suzie was raised on Colorado's rough ranch lands, learning hard work, responsibility, and silent sacrifice. She was influenced by the huge, untamed, and sometimes cruel landscape. Her marriage was promised happiness, but turned into suffering. Her lover caused her pain, which she rarely discussed. Even her loved ones. A partnership threatened by control, bruises hidden in daily life, and fear replacing love. Suzie was determined despite her weight. She turned her anguish into purpose, putting her strength into every piece and tale saved. Scars lingered beneath the surface, invisible to the public, but recognized intimately. Steve Fletcher, her brother and co-star, quietly guarded their history. He lived for antique watches and clocks' complex gears and springs. His work showed his lifelong pursuit of perfection. Behind the ticking watches was a guy hiding his emotional scars. Steven's tranquility was fake. Behind the scenes, he protected his sister, managed family disputes, and kept the studio a sanctuary for their spirits. His calm hands did more than fix things. They healed fragile hearts, including his. Suzie and Steve presented a united front. Their shared survival forged their hilarious and somber kinship. Fans thought their conversations and interviews revealed everything, but they hadn't. A story would soon emerge, challenging the soothing narrative and revealing the Fletcher siblings' actual strength. Heel-trying house. They grew up in opposites in Oxfordshire. It appeared to be a run-down house with creaky wooden flooring and faded wallpaper that whispered centuries past. Its rooms were noisy and full of laughing from four siblings, chasing one another along small halls, their hands continuously making or fixing something. It contained family feasts, baked cakes for birthdays, and the smell of freshly brewed tea from the kitchen. Outsiders saw a close-knit, loving family. Despite the smiles and noise, there was unsaid anguish and fragility. Their mother suffered silently from postpartum depression, a poorly understood disease that was generally disregarded or hidden behind closed doors. The household sadness was hidden by childhood's delight. Their mother's unhappiness and anxiety drained her energy like a tide. Pressure on their father, who kept the family together, was intolerable. A man shaped by his worries and disappointments. A person who attempted to be strong but was disintegrating. The stress drove him down until he had a mental breakdown that shattered masks and revealed real vulnerability. Sometimes the youngsters were surreptitiously taken to relatives' houses to keep their innocence safe from the storm. Days were spent in a family where affection sometimes felt like a facade. Frail facade, hiding emotional fissures. Later, Steve Fletcher looked on those early years with candor and compassion. "Our mom had terrible postnatal depression," he said, voice thick with memory. "Besides sadness, it was profound loneliness. That drove Dad crazy. He failed to cope and suffered a psychological collapse. All of us were in darkness." "Looking back, I feel extremely sorry for Mum," said Suzie with pity. Nobody realized how devastating that was then. They provided primitive, harsh therapy. She was imprisoned in an unhelpful system. Despite difficulties, the siblings' memories of their parents are balanced, with affection and clear honesty. "We struggled like other families." Steve gently said, "We had each other. Through those times, we survived. We weren't defined or hampered by it. This perseverance wasn't luck. It was the quiet fortitude of a family committed to heal imperfectly." Suzie made a life-changing decision in her 30s. She crossed the Atlantic to start over in Colorado, USA, leaving Oxfordshire's rolling fields and familiar neighborhoods. To others, it was a risky move, an exhilarating adventure, a chance to start over. Escape lurked beneath the promise of new beginnings. The move was about escaping old ghosts and embracing new prospects. Colorado's huge vistas and open skies gave Suzie space to breathe, relief from her youth's secret troubles. It seems she found love in America. Rob, her husband, was a key but silent character in her story. To the many followers who followed her on the repair shop, he was a mystery. His silence spoke volumes. The marriage was secret. Pain and perseverance characterized what happened behind closed doors. A hidden battle made Suzie the strong, kind woman audiences would admire. Her relationship tragedy was severe, yet her quiet perseverance and refusal to be defined by sorrow became her legacy. Despite being rarely mentioned, those years shaped her perspective, sensitivity, and commitment to healing through the show's craft and relationships. Her rise from those sad years to public life and artistic fulfillment is a monument to the human spirit, showing that hope and change are possible even in the darkest periods. How about her brother in the UK? Silence was deliberate. Steve Fletcher lived in Oxfordshire, away from the public eye. Many noticed the horologist's pleasant smile on the repair shop, but few knew his weight. Steve was precise with clocks, watches, and his personal boundaries. Steve meticulously built a reputation as a skilled craftsman who could revive the most worn relics while raising 5 children in a close-knit household. Despite this accomplishment, an implicit agreement kept the family together, a secret pact. Behind every chuckle on camera was a shield sheltering the family from the harsh truth that may shatter their lives. Suzie Fletcher, renowned for her leather work and saddle restoration, agreed to this unspoken agreement. Maybe better than anyone, she knew the cost of vulnerability. In a rare interview, she gently stated, "We had to hide this, since families didn't share then. It was unsafe to discuss these issues." That quiet was intentional. They survived. In an age where mental health was taboo and vulnerability was seen for weakness, the Fletchers constructed their fortress with modesty. Some families of their period lived the silent truth, as Suzie said. Grief and trauma were hidden, protected from prying eyes to protect individuals and the family. A quiet testament to fortitude was Steve's refusal to leave Oxfordshire to escape past hardships by moving or changing course. His toughness showed resilience, not retreating from pain, but learning to endure it. Many hours of silent struggle behind the workshop's doors were never captured by the cameras. Old clock-fixing hands trembled with memories best left alone. The world saw smiles, but not the nights spent grieving and defending a family legacy wounded by grief. In the quiet between clock ticks, Steve and Susie's stillness spoke volumes. This language was learnt and exchanged in whispered glances and knowing nods, forming an unbreakable relationship from shared grief and intense love. Gaps in the veneer, but time, like even the best mechanisms, reveals flaws. Steve and Susie's carefully kept serenity and brightness began to show small cracks with close inspection. Susie's absences from multiple repair shop episodes were noticed by viewers. Concern developed, but the reasons were not stated. Her once vibrant presence seemed faded, as if ghosts from the past were sneaking in. Steve became increasingly reticent. Interviews became reflective. Once unshakable man reveals deeper narrative in flashes. Podcasts and behind-the-scenes pieces revealed memories lost in time. Fragmented stories with carefully chosen phrases that raised more questions than answers. Fans, lured by the Fletcher's sincerity and kindness, wondered what was underneath those grins. The family's quiet became a call for compassion, patience, and respect for private fights. What did they go through to get close? What woes had forged such a bond? They intentionally hid what truths, veiled in elegance and resilience. Their public image flaws sparked inquiry and empathy. The Fletcher's story went beyond restoration and craftsmanship. It was about survival, endurance, and quiet heroism of protecting each other in terrible times. As public attention increased, expectation grew. When it came, the unveiling would go beyond what was lost or hidden. It would be about the guts to voice what was once whispered and the strength of vulnerability. The choice to speak. Not an unexpected reveal. It took decades to unravel, but internal negotiations finally broke down. Steve and Suzie quietly carried their history for years. A quiet resilience that rarely revealed the tempest beneath. They were admired by the public, especially at the repair shop. Behind the scenes, a delicate wall of quiet stayed solid, not out of shame but need. The world observed their grins, ease in front of the camera, and apparent passion for restoration. But they knew the truth was more complicated. Not all pain is obvious. It might hide behind calm eyes and sweet words. Finally, the scales tipped. There was no big reveal or tabloid expose. A podcast interview was private, raw, and deeply human. Some carefully picked phrases were tentatively sent into the ether, testing the waters. Reaction was immediate, but intent was apparent. No more hiding. Steve spoke first, his voice steady but tinged with years of holding back the past. "When you come from that background, you bear it softly," he continued, reflecting rather than resentful. "You must release some of it. You can't carry everything inside forever. It devours. It didn't seek compassion or attention. A release, a reckoning. The siblings preferred vulnerability to invisibility. A revolution was happening behind their serenity. A subtle but unstoppable movement for truth, healing, and self-recognition. Despite that breakthrough, much remained hidden. Their findings were simply the tip of a darker story, hidden beneath the craftsman's patience and smiles. Suzie and Steve revealed their background, which they had guarded with loyalty and dread, in a rare, lengthy conversation. This was more than a sad story. Survival was raw, unfiltered, and excruciating. Suzie's marriage, which the world never glimpsed, was a difficult road. Rob, her husband, fought pancreatic cancer bravely. The sickness caused more than bodily decline. A terrible character change was shown. What started as minor alterations became obvious control and aggression. One of her saddest memories was being hoisted off the ground by her throat, her feet dangling as breath left her body. Suzie whispered, "I thought I was going to die. He was choking me so hard I believed my airway would close. Why he stopped and let go, I don't know, but I gasped in terror." The stillness of her admittance screamed louder than words. It broke Suzie's and the audience's illusions. She said, eyes distant, that she was deeply shocked. "I thought that kind of brutality and fear were for other people and stories. I thought he wouldn't injure me. But then I felt his hands on my throat and realized the reality." Rob's change from a loving partner to a dangerous one was brutal and worsened Suzie's wound. Despite the pain, her comments contained a quiet strength and a vow to regain her life. Sharing this secret part was hardest. They realized quiet was confinement, thus it was required. Speech was free. It was unknown to fans. Millions watched Suzie and Steve Fletcher perform for years. Careful hands brought history to life on video. They noticed beautiful leather, shiny metal, and intricate stitching. They missed the calm resilience underneath. Besides the objects, the story was in the restorers. Suzie and Steve were complete survivors behind the scenes. Silence and unacknowledged pain from childhood left invisible wounds. Sharing laughing over a rebuilt clock face, covered evenings spent fighting memories that wouldn't vanish. They repaired saddles with the same care they did their broken pasts. Each treasure and antique was more than a task. The emblem reflected their journeys. They recognized the weight of brokenness and hope in healing. They valued repair over skill. It became a silent but powerful language of healing and restoring lost control. In a rare moment of candor, Steve remarked, "We didn't merely help others. Our recovery included it. As we repaired these artifacts, we discovered ourselves." The lovely Suzie nodded in accord, despite her lifetime of misery. "My stitches weren't simply for leather. It was about rebuilding and telling a tale I wasn't ready to share." The show's success portrayed them as professional restorers, but it never truly reflected their inner struggles. They had to bury their pain behind professionalism and smiles as their history threatened to overtake them. Public life necessitated constant performance, a polish that often clashed with their principles. Despite everything, their unshakable sibling bond saved them. It was late-night chats, silent understanding, and a common commitment to move forward despite the past. In addition to fixing antiques, they discreetly repaired themselves. The impact was great when Suzie and Steve Fletcher finally shared their inner world. After seeing the skillful hands and calm voices, viewers saw the raw, unvarnished humanity behind the restoration benches. They described childhood maltreatment that lasted longer than anyone expected. Of silent mental health struggles they battled even in public, of generational trauma that suffocated them like a cloak, inherited from those before them and threatening to pass on again. Despite the darkness, they were kind. They continued to restore hope and resilience, not just objects. They illuminated the possibilities of healing after pain, rebuilding what appeared unsalvageable. Suzie's revelation was key. A decades-old secret revealed honestly. It was more than survival. It was about daring, breaking silence, and accepting imperfection as strength. This was no ordinary episode of a beloved show. A reckoning. The truth emerged from the polished repair. Delicate, beautiful, and fundamentally human. They reclaimed their own past for the first time, not just passed it on. With their meticulously preserved relics, they reconstructed their identities piece by piece. Suzie and Steve Fletcher taught their audience that healing can be an act of creation, and that sometimes the greatest repair is self-restoration. Which truth have you kept hidden for too long, and what would it take to reveal it? Comment your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.